on separate coasts, go dive in Greece with squids. Could have been so bleeping rich, but instead we had kids. They won't smile for a photo, they won't eat the food we choose. That's why we're heading to the parents' lounge to drown ourselves in booze. Every day we're more exhausted, we haven't slept in years. They hit me in the nuts so bad, my eyes filled up with tears. And yes, we'd like to fake our death and go off of the grids, but the truth is we are softies and we truly love our kids. So join us every Tuesday night to laugh at all our pain. Evening in the parents' lounge is the cure to staying sane. Welcome to another episode of the Parents' Lounge. Jason
Hello.
Here. Hey, how are you, my friend?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, no. Yeah. We have a great show tonight, man. We're talking all things twins. I should say multiples tonight.
It is, I guess that's the official term. I mean, because I only have the two. Because I'm surviving just the two, I never think about it. But I guess that is the right term.
Yes, and so we have our expert Natalie, who is an expert on all things twins, and she runs Twiniversity, and she'll be up here in a few minutes to share her wealth of knowledge with us. It is kind of crazy having twins, right? I mean, you're a special breed.
And it wasn't my choice. I mean, like I said, it was a well-placed text message by my wife when when I was at work, and bada bing, bada boom, I've got twins on the way. There was no class. There was no prepping. I just am trying to survive them.
Proceed. Yeah. How was your week? I took my kids to the dentist.
Oh, how'd that go?
I'm getting to a point with my kids where it's like I'm getting sick of yelling at them to brush their teeth every day, to go and make them floss. And, we got there and the dentist was like, are they flossing? And my daughter was like, yeah. And I go, no, they're not. No, never. And my daughter's like, well, sometimes. I go, no, never. Right. They just don't do it. And so one kid has 4 cavities. We haven't, we missed a visit for the pandemic.
We haven't done a cavity yet. We're not there. That hasn't happened.
I had them young. How are your teeth? Mine are soft, I think. I have cavities.
I'm good. So I have really big spaces between my teeth. I basically look just like a piranha. And so because of that, food passes pretty easily with an easy brush.
It's just, I have a water pick that I really love, but I never had braces. But you can see, I never thought I was like, God, I must have been 50. And the dentist was like, you grind your teeth. And I go, what? I've been doing it, apparently, because you can see they all line up. They've obviously ground into a perfect match. But he was like, I'm going to make you a mouth guard. So you can start sleeping with it. And I go, at 50? Dude, my teeth are, wherever they are, this is what they're going to be. And so lately, though, I've been telling my daughters, I go, I was getting so angry at brush your teeth. And now my thing is, they're your teeth, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, if you want to come back in 20 years to Thanksgiving with one tooth, that's on you.
Yeah, I know you're only 7 years old, but listen, they're your teeth and they're getting yellow and crusty. So if you don't want to be that kid at school, you should start brushing your teeth. And then she started brushing her teeth. As soon as I kind of stopped yelling at her to do it and was like, look, they're going to rot out of your head. You want to be the kid with teeth?
Do you find that letting them have that little bit of independence helps?
I do. I feel like sometimes we are so on top of them that they don't do what they should be doing because they're waiting for you to tell them what to do.
Yeah, I don't think we give kids enough credit because I know sometimes with Jace, he does more if we just sort of point him in the right direction and let him do it. I do get more out of him that way.
Well, I go, I want this done. I'm not going to tell you again. And then later she'll come up and she'll go, hey, can we go do this? And I go, did you take care of that? And she's like, oh, no, I haven't done it yet. I go, well, when you do that, you come talk to me, and then we'll talk, and then she'll do it.
Nice.
It's just getting better at it, but yeah. So here's what I want to talk about dentistry, though, is that so my daughter has to have a cavity, right? She has cavities filled. We have to go back in August to have it done or whatever. So the dentist shows you what the bill's going to be, right? So just so you know, here's the bill that's going to happen with your daughter's cavities at the end of August, so that you sign off on it, so that they don't get blindsided by this bill.
Right. Yeah.
But you know what they don't? So insurance doesn't pay for gas.
Really?
So, yeah, they don't pay for gas, and they were very adamant about, just so you know, the gas isn't going to get covered. And here, if you're wondering what gas is like, this is what they do to a little kid. Otherwise, and so the kid gets a little euphoric. They're not going under. They're not being gassed till they're under. They are being gassed.
But just takes the edge off.
They're getting high. You're getting my kid high. And you're not covering it.
How do I sign up for that? I guess dentist.
Yeah, I was like, I'll take some of the gas. For the love of God, can you just buy it by the tank? Because I would love some. Especially, you want to see what happens? So here's the gas, and look who's getting her teeth worked on. Boom, right? To go, hey,
man, she looks like she's on Dream Street, maybe.
Hi, it's a kite.
She looks like me, freshman year of college.
Right? This is gonna be Hannah in college. Oh, at the party where they're like, hey, you should probably not drive. So I was amazed, but I don't remember having gas as a kid, but I was like, she goes, well, we don't have to do the gas. And I go, do you want to hear my daughter scream for like 2 hours? Because that's what's going to happen, because she screams when I try to put like cream on her arm. Or sunscreen, like she won't put sunscreen on. So I go, yeah, of course we're gonna have to use the gas. So it's $200 a blast of gas. I guess it's like an expensive highball.
Wow, good shit. Some good shit then.
Yeah, it must be some really, really good shit. All right. Anyway, let's move on with our show. We have a special guest tonight, Jason.
Yes.
You wanna set up this bit?
Yes. So. Some people would say that Mr. Kaler and I are, I don't want to say callous, but divisive when dealing with our wives. Have you? Some people have said that of us. And so Jamie has a lot of connections out there in the world. He's been an actor for what seems like forever. And he made a connection with a legitimate therapist, but also a pretty well-known celebrity.
Yeah.
Tell me how this came to be.
Well, he's the king of. I mean, it doesn't matter how I met him at some crazy SAG Awards, or whatever. But our friend Billy Crystal is now doing marriage counseling, and so he came on board. He came in as a guest, and this is our segment with marriage counseling with Billy Crystal. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very famous celebrity who is also, I guess, part marriage counselor. He's always played.
He's licensed. He's a licensed counselor.
He's a licensed counselor. Please welcome Billy Crystal. Billy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. There's no more Clipper games for me, so I'm available. So I decided to do it. Why not?
Have you been a therapist long?
Well, I've been for as long as I've been a Clipper fan, because I had to learn how to deal with the pain, and I decided to take an online course, hang a shingle, have some people come over. A lot of people like me and analyze this. I thought, I did a good job in the film. I had the research for the film. Why not make a couple of extra bucks between plays? 700 Sundays comes to an end, and then I started taking patients.
Yeah, well, I'm a huge fan of your whole career. I've been a huge fan.
Thank you.
Of your comedy and stuff. So I appreciate you coming on. I mean, I know you're deep into method, and when you played the counselor, I think you went and legally got the credentials to become a real counselor.
I did. I'm right
so
here.
So they play the part and stuff. So Jason here has a marital problem that he'd love some help with, if you could.
Okay, and these are off the clock, so I'm not going to, I'm not going to say, here, this is your time or anything like that. So, hey, whenever you don't have to lay down, you don't have to get I don't have a notebook. I'm just going to listen to your problems.
I appreciate that.
Okay. You're welcome.
We do need the help. I mean, Jamie and I need the help.
And
this is what I've heard.
Billy, you've been married for like 85 years at this point. So
yes.
You know a thing or two about marriage.
I know a thing or two about marriage, and I'm married, as I said, to pain. I'm a Clippers fan.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So So here's my issue.
Okay.
So I'm 100% convinced that my 3 children are trying to kill me.
Okay.
The twin, especially the young one, we call him the Dark Lord.
Okay.
He is. Look, I found broken shards of glass in my bed. My wife for sure didn't do it. It was them. But my wife, and where the problem is coming is that she thinks they're complete angels. She thinks they're wonderful children. I don't at all. And
Okay.
It's driving a wedge in our marriage, and I don't quite know what to do.
First of all, I noticed the use of the pronoun my issue. I think it's an our issue. I think it's a family issue. By denigrating yourself to saying that it's your fault, I don't want to sound like, Robin Williams, my long departed friend in Good Will Hunting, but it's not your fault. It's not your fault. I did a little Boston there. Normally I'm from the Bronx, but the Boston accent's for free. It's not your fault. It's a family fault. First of all, your wife has to be in cahoots with you. You got to agree with each other.
Not in cahoots. She thinks that they're angels.
Everybody knows your kids are monsters.
Mom always sides with the kids, Billy.
Yeah. Everybody knows our kids are monsters. I said monsters. My one eye. Everybody knows our kids are monsters. That's first off where the parents have to agree, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, do you have a trampoline?
We have a mini trampoline.
You need a bigger one, okay? And you need to lock it. And you need those kids to sleep in there overnight. And you need to put fire ants on that trampoline. And they will jump, and they will ooch, and they will ouch, and they will jump. And then they're going to become so exhausted, they're going to pass out, and they'll learn not to be little monsters. It's not your fault. There it is. Time's up.
Thank you. That's
You're
brilliant.
welcome.
So it's just as simple as buying a obviously a
Trampoline,
and
fire
And also
ants.
getting live fire ants.
Padlock, trampoline, fire ants, good kids.
Hadn't thought about the fire ants. That's an interesting take. That's
Are
honestly,
they hard to get?
Easy to get. Fireants.com. Look it up.
Yeah. My neighbor bought ladybugs. Like, you can buy them like a box of 1,000 ladybugs.
That's
Good for the garden. And
Yeah, for the
making
garden,
you look, they're good for the garden and making you look metrosexual.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Billy. That was a huge help.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was great help.
Our fans out there obviously learned a thing or two about how to...
Trampolines, fire ants, and a padlock.
Great. Well, all right, Jason, what do you say? Let's bring in our guest.
I'm super excited. The woman literally saved my life.
I know, and we'll talk about that because obviously you have twins. I have what is referred to as Irish twins, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But let's bring in our guest. She is the Pied Piper of twin families around the globe, as founder of Twiniversity, the world's leading resource and support network for multiple birth families. Nat's become a global influencer for this small niche community, and she is the world's #1 twin parenting and twin gear expert, serving as a twin consultant for top brands and worldwide recognized foundations. And of course, she's pretty famous for her Amazon best-selling book, What to Do When You're Having Two. Please welcome Natalie Diaz.
Hello.
The crowd roars.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming. And yeah, we don't do crowd. And honestly, the reason we have this show is to get away from our children and be quiet. So I don't know why we even fake crowd. We should just go,
It's true. I guess
need
it's
to make
just
this-
tradition.
This needs to be the parents' nap time. That's what it needs to be.
It should just be an hour of us just asleep in the frame.
And the news on the background. That's
That's
it.
it.
Just sleeping through it. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. How are you? Thank you for coming and playing.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Thanks for having me. And thanks for doing this virtually. So I love that we're all over the country right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where are you?
I'm in New York City.
Okay, so you're in
So-
New York.
Okay.
I'm slightly north of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Mr. Kaler is in Los Angeles.
I can tell you're in New York City because
My beautiful view.
yeah, and
Thank
the air
you. It's
conditioning.
stunning. It's
In,
stunning. It's you see the brick. It's the brick of your virtual background.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a photo right
That's
outside my
weird.
window. Yes.
Yeah, I actually just stole the background from your personal photos.
It's anytime. And I could tell you about my neighbor. She's very loud. She has a lot of friends. She only speaks Chinese. And she hates birds because she threw the bird's nest that was on her windowsill off. I wrote her a hate message and put it in my window so then she knew that I saw her throw the bird's nest off. But it was
Who
annoying.
doesn't like birds. What?
No,
Yeah,
this
I
one
mean,
was
what did
bad.
the birds do to her?
The birds, first of all, they love to get very passionate, and they're very loud.
Sure.
And so they apparently, this was a rent a nest by hour location that was by her air conditioner. So it was a lot, but I don't know if I would go full bird homicide. But everybody's, that's her.
She took out a whole family too. It wasn't just a one-off. I mean, it was a mass bird killing.
But it was a lot. But the birds in this alleyway. So I live in a tenement building. So it was built in 1895 is when this building was built. And of course, things were not built to code. What was code in 1895? So I could touch her window from my window. And as you see how much beautiful natural light I have, also known as none. Yeah. I don't even know why there is a window there. But have all the pigeons and the mourning doves, they congregate in this area. So the pigeons making love have been a regular occurrence, even of my own twin's life. Sure. And so when you would hear the cooing, my daughter would yell, "They're being frisky again. The pigeons are going at it, Mom." And I'm like, leave them be. Place them very white. Walk away. Put on a flameless candle for them.
You kind of are doing pets the way I did it. So my daughter asked me if we could have a bird, and I said, absolutely. And I put a bird feeder right out this window. And so she has like 30 birds, and they come every day. And she has a squirrel as well that just tries to eat the seed. So I have this big, long bird feeder. And she goes, but I want them in a cage. And I go, why would you want the bird? Why would you want to confine it to a cage? We have them. They go, they come back. They're our pets.
Did you ever see the bird feeder that suction cups to the window?
I have seen that, yeah.
Jason, we need to get those for our kids. I think it's a must.
I would actually squirrels off too, because I have one hanging from the tree. It's like a yard away from the window, and
two of my three kids
figured out how to get to it.
2 of my 3 kids could be trusted with a bird feeder by a window. The third would not. It's not going to go.
You put an up high window.
That might work. That might work.
It's a lot of kids, man. You got to try to make it work what you can. But yeah, I never had to care for these birds. But I did. I went someplace. I was in Central Park. It was another park uptown. But I collected all like these sticks and stuff. And I like opened the window and I littered them outside. They never took them. And it actually got caught in this air conditioner and damaged the air conditioner. So here I am like Mother Nature, like little birds, let me help you make your nest. But I poop you not. The bird's nest was made of zip ties and mop strings.
Of course.
Because why not?
I'm sure there was a slice of pizza in there and a rat.
Subway rat. I was just about to say the same.
Subway rat's the best. But literally when I saw that it was a zip tie, that's why I was like, let me collect these sticks. Maybe the bird doesn't know that it can make a home out of natural products. Yeah. But they didn't make it.
Just your expertise in the bird world.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's showing me how true it is that you are the expert of twins. And
you're also momming to nature.
I'm trying. Yeah. It's one of those things. But yeah, I didn't think that I would be where I am today. I had a nice career before I started Twiniversity. I had a great career. I worked in luxury African travel, which was really like very bougie. And then when we couldn't conceive, so I ended up having to have years and years of documented infertility, which is quite traumatic. And then finally we went for the big guy of the IVF, and I only had 2 eggs that made it to transfer day for those IVF families out there listening. And they're like, the odds aren't looking good. It's not looking good. And sure as crapola, man, I have pictures of the first picture of my twins was them at 8 cells.
8 cells?
8 cells. So that's their first baby picture. And my kids know they're IVF babies. And I think there's a lot of shame in the IVF game. And we never had that.
Why is there shame in the IVF
There's
game?
A lot of people. I think that it has to do with that people feel like not being able to conceive is some kind of failure. Whether it's your partner, whether it's you, it's like my body isn't doing what it's supposed to do by nature. Therefore, I'm a failure.
What's funny is how many people do we know who are able to conceive who should not be parents?
Not at all.
I mean, to me, that's the failure. It's the people who really want to parent and aren't able to have children. I mean, those are to me, that makes more sense than the 16-year-old kid who's going to the prom pregnant. That always is like, Should we be making shows called My Super Teenage Pregnancy?
Probably not. We should probably have the Twiniversity show too. That would act as birth control.
So what made you, I mean, obviously Jason is the king of this. I should just be quiet and listen, because Jason has told me numerous times, he goes, her book literally saved my life. I don't know if I would have made it.
And that's not a joke. Like literally, your book, What to Do When You're Having to, my wife and I owe you literally our lives. Like literally.
I will literally take them. I actually will have a contract sent over. And so someday when I need extra souls to feed the birds.
You went full Little Mermaid on that.
That's it. I'll go full Ursula if I can.
It was. So when I got, we had an oops before the wedding. And so they are the 8th set of twins in my family and second in hers. So by the old high school Punnett squares, odds were not in our favor. There was not a good, and we went in and I joked for months. Like I was like, when we do have kids, we're going to have twins. And she would be like, ha ha, really funny. And we were in the doctor's appointment that day and we thought something was wrong because the ultrasound tech was like looking around. He looked very concerned. And I'm like, oh no, what has happened? And he goes, and we have a surprise. And my wife just started weeping uncontrollably. And I laughed like this maniacal laughter that my death was signed, like my death certificate was pre-signed on that day. But your book, I literally, like when I had all this stuff written in the margins, like I was following it to a T. And how did you come to that place? How did you design that book?
Dude, let me tell you something. I literally, when I wrote it to be read on a toilet bowl.
And I did.
Because I know realistically, who the hell has time to do anything extra? Right? So maybe your wife may have more time, but I want you to read the book. So also, I don't know if you noticed, but there is a lot of like dad bits that are actually outlined in gray.
Yes.
So I'm and as now how it started was once I found out that there was 2 heartbeats. Okay. I live in a 650 square foot apartment in New York City. This is it. My family has been here since 1872. I could literally track, and we've never left this block. We've never left Little Italy.
Wait, what?
Wait.
Yeah. Let me tell you,
your family owns the building.
They bought it in the 30s. Yeah, they're
not going to give you an extra apartment or two.
That's 2 apartments. That's 2 freaking apartments.
Why 600 square feet is 2 apartments.
Yo, it is 2.
Oh, so you have to.
I have to.
You would have to. You couldn't live in. That's insane.
But let me tell you why it's not insane. Because my grandmother raised 7 children in 300 square feet. It's called perspective. And so if you knew, like my grandmother couldn't have another baby until the drawer was empty. So when I found out that I was having twins and having like a mini nervous breakdown, I was like, how are we going to do this? The very first words, Jason, if you thought you were bad, my husband said to me, we have to move.
Yeah. No, I would have said the same thing. I would be saying that still today.
Okay, but I see your statement and I raised you, but my whole family lives in this building.
I was going to say that's the only reason.
So your village is there.
My village is here. And that is how I was raised.
In the dumbwaiter and then lower 100%. The baby down 2 floors and go, who's taking the baby?
My grandmother used to have a plastic bag on dental floss. She would, because that was stronger than regular, and she would put money in it and then send it outside, and then we'd go get her milk and stuff like that. So my grandmother was still alive when I got pregnant, and so I was freaking out. And my grandmother basically told me to like calm the F down, and it's a walk up. And so she's like, "You're like, this isn't that special. Sure, you're having twins. This is great. This is fantastic. You have enough help." And my husband grew up in Brooklyn and comes from a very Irish family where nobody's less than, I would say 11 months apart, I think is the max in that side. They're all gingers too. So I got a lucky ginger in my batch. And it wasn't, I just had to calm down and I just had to keep it in perspective. And instead of worrying about the little minutia of being pregnant, I just had to worry about keeping them in my body. And everything else, when you have no space, you buy less stuff. And you really realize there's actually a need versus a want. So here in New York City, there is, at the time, I went to a twins club, a local twins club, right? Manhattan Twins Club. And you have everybody from the Mies who travel through the tunnel to go grocery shopping because milk here is $7 a gallon. And I could pay a quick little toll and pay $3 a gallon. So you have families like us that just happen to be here since the dawn of time. And then you have the Real Housewives that have a Park Avenue apartment and are going to have, 2 full-time live-ins and maybe an extra housekeeper. So it was this really interesting group of women that were trying to tell me like, oh, this is what you're going to do. And this is how you do it. And these are the products you're going to buy. And I'm like, listen to me. That's not me. I'm living in, this is my island. I don't care what, I'm not saying that it's not everybody else's island, but I'm not going anywhere. And so I don't need a $2,000 stroller. I don't need a full-time live-in nanny when we called my grandmother nanny because that's Italian. She's Nana. So my nanny is upstairs. My aunts and uncles are upstairs. My parents are downstairs. My sister's across the hall. So I'm not going to have an au pair come in. Not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but I would rather have less space and more hands than have more space and less hands. And then I have to pay hands, and then I got to interview hands, and I got to see who's coming in. So we changed our priorities. In hindsight, it was a lot more challenging because it's really tough to tell your 75-year-old grandmother that you can't give a 2-month-old chicken cutlets.
Not usually, no.
It's a thing. It's a conversation that had to be had. But
how did that conversation go?
Natty, you can't give the kids chicken cutlets. They're going to choke to death, and then we're going to watch them die in the living room. Well, that's how that went.
You get chicken cutlets at 2 months old, probably.
I'm positive I had chicken cutlets. If you saw these thighs, they're definitely chicken cutlet, 2-month-old chicken cutlet thighs. There's no way.
I think I probably did. They might have even been even earlier than that for me.
That's how we do it.
Right out of the womb.
But it's
funny you say all that because I totally agree. And we live in LA. We don't have any family out here. We're both East Coasters. So we have to, I watch the kids a lot. As my wife does, because we don't have any childcare, and if we have somebody watch them, we have to pay them. And so there's that, I wish we had our family around us. I'm kind of jealous that you have your own building. I mean, that's totally
pretty
the way
spectacular. Yeah.
It's legit. Let me tell you, we're the envy, and my kids know it. My kids are 16 now, and my kids are already making plans of when do they get their apartment. And I'm like, that's not how that works, kids. I was I hate to
there other apartments?
Yeah, there's people who pay market value, but they're our family because since it's such a small building, so it's mostly filled with young single women who, and we look out for each other. Right. And whatever. That's I'm cool. Meg, you need me to buy, I'm ordering from, Stop and Shop. You need extra seltzer. It's really a weird little village that is our building. It's pretty cool. If I ever wrote another book, that's what it would be
totally like that. And we're very lucky. We almost moved, and then we love our neighbors so much because we have a little neighbor text chain, and it's the same. Hey, I'm at the grocery store during the whole pandemic. People took care of everybody. And it is. I mean, it does take a village in a way. I'm just so intrigued by the twins part of it because, that's
why you guys called me. It's funny, but then we could talk about, and when you said, is there anything we can talk about, which is something that I do on our podcast too. There's so many things that I want people to know because when you have twins, that doesn't define you, for the record. And I'm sure Jason's going to agree. And one of the challenges that we find most at Twiniversity is so there's a lot of things that we do at Twiniversity. One of them is we have our podcast. Another thing is we have monthly meetings. And so if you don't have a local twins club in your area, you can show up. That's the problem. And a lot of local twin clubs are like, well, you're trying to compete with us. I would give anything to have a drink or a coffee with a fellow twin parent, but it's not possible for everybody. So if we could connect you with who's in your area, because we're a global network,
Right.
We find people make friends in the UK that met through Twiniversity. People make friends in the Philippines that met through Twiniversity. South Africa, forget about Tribeca and Los Angeles. I mean, that's like a given. But I started this whole thing because from that meeting at the Manhattan Twins Club with these people telling me what I needed and how I had to live, and knowing that that wasn't me, I felt like why can't there be more than one voice to this? Not saying that that person was wrong.
What are your biggest questions that people ask you, and what are your biggest like top 5 things that you tell people with twins? Here's one thing you're gonna learn.
What's the most important stuff you think twins? Because like we do have a lot of twin parents who watch the show. So what should they know?
Okay, so the biggest questions that come up are help breastfeeding, strollers, and sleep. Boom, I could tell you because I check my freaking analytics every day. We also create content based on our analytics. I make what you want me to make for Twiniversity. I don't make what I want you to have. There's got to be a harmony, because I didn't make Twiniversity for Natalie Diaz. I've been there, done that. I'm making it for Jason. So when I wrote the book,
Jason uses it.
My love, if I could just hold you close to me for a second. That's what I want. I want people to feel recognized no matter where you are in the country, no matter what your economic status, no matter what your sexual orientation, marital status. It does not matter. If there are 2 heartbeats, whether they're in your womb or somebody else's, at the end of the day, we're in this together. When we meet singleton parents in the street, Jason, stop me if I'm wrong. Here's what we get. Ooh, double trouble. Oh, better you than me. Oh, I don't know how you're going to do it. You're never going to sleep again.
You have your hands full.
Who asked you? Who asked you if my hands are going to be full? What am I going to do? One at the fire station? What am I going to do?
I have a question. What is your go-to response when you're asked, are they twins?
I say no. And then I walk away.
I have my go-to is no. That's the other guy's stunt double.
I say ask the nanny. Ask their nanny. I have to ask their mother. I love pretending that I'm the nanny in New York when they were little. It's one of my favorite hobbies. I also I have boy-girl twins, so they would often ask if they were identical, and I would say everything but she's missing a penis, unfortunately. So she didn't get that. That's a very common one.
During childbirth with the placenta.
We don't know what happened. I don't know. By the way, my kids also don't even look like siblings. Forget about how could you say they're identical. My boy looks like he's Italian. My girl looks like she's from Lollipop Land. Like it's like Lollipop.
She's the ginger?
She is super ginger.
They're separate eggs. They weren't the same egg.
Totally. And as we could see from Dr. Mukherjee,
twins because they arrived at the gate at the same time.
Well, they grew at the same time. They've never been apart from the time that they were conceived in a science office. But they are very much twins. And I'm very thankful that I got to see this relationship. And I always felt that because they were IVF twins that I felt like a fraud in the beginning. Like I didn't have real twins. Like Jason had his real twins. Like that was like oops, look, I have 2.
I wish my twins weren't real, but there they are.
My 4 babies. So going back to what people ask,
grief because it wasn't, it's like it wasn't God's choice. It wasn't nature telling
it's
you.
Weird.
You dictated it. You're an evil genius with a clone on an island or something.
That's
you got the Jurassic Park of babies.
And is there a hierarchy in the twin world between single egg split and 2 eggs? Like they go,
nah,
that's identical, right? And then the other 2 are fraternal.
Well, identicals face their own challenges, right? So medically, they have their own challenges from conception. From conception, identical twins are always going to be in a separate area. So when I'm working with twin families, it's the very first thing I ask because I need to know how fragile is this? Because it is a lot more fragile. And
why? Because it's just one egg. Oh, before they're born, you mean it's more fragile?
Yeah, before they're
split egg.
Yes. Jason, your twinnies are identical?
Yeah, they're die.
Okay. So give us a background on your wife's pregnancy experience with die twins.
It was throughout most of it pretty uneventful. Mm-hmm. Everything was going very smoothly. They were watching to make sure one wasn't getting more nutrition than the other, that the absorption stuff wasn't happening. But thankfully they grew. They were so close all the way up through. And she blew past 36 weeks.
Good.
She had to be induced at 40. and because it was getting to the point that it was just too much for her. And we've talked about this on this show before, but you and I have never talked about this. 6 days after they were born, she had a stroke from the stress of their birth. So I was raising, like trying to take care of them, but also rehab her at the same time. So it was just a ridiculously crazy time for me. And that's one of the reasons I have always gravitated to your stuff, is because you literally were keeping me going.
Jay, I'm very humbled by that. Number one tip, Jamie, you want to know what it is? Don't worry until somebody tells you to worry.
Well, that's my general theory in life. Yeah.
But when it comes to pregnancy, everybody's like, oh my God, you can't play what's going to happen. You're going to play, let's get through the next 10 minutes and then let's worry. So my personal pregnancy was horrendous. I was in the hospital starting at 27 weeks. I did make it weirdly to 34 weeks on the day, but I was on hospital bed rest in the hospital. I have a genetic blood clotting disorder, which may have a lot to do with why I couldn't conceive. Oh. So during the latter part of my pregnancy, I was on a blood thinner when I ended up getting very, very bad preeclampsia, very bad. Was on morphine, the whole 9 yards. And by the way, those of you that are listening and you're expecting, do not expect this to be a typical experience, but you're going to hear that there's a silver lining to this. I had a very, very traumatic delivery. They came out old school. Baby A shot out and after 5 hours of my water breaking. Baby B came out 2 minutes after. Beautiful. They were off to the side, being taken care of. And I had a lot of postpartum hemorrhaging because that blood thinner couldn't get reversed.
Oh, no.
And so I had like bleeding. And I remember that I couldn't really see what was going on. I was still kind of puffy from my pregnancy, but I could see my husband, and he looked like something was happening. And so I remember looking at my doctor, who, by the way, I had never met before. She was the only person in the practice that I had never met. And so I looked at her and I said, should I be worried? And she said, I'll tell you when to worry. And I said, okay.
So you've kind of adapted that mindset.
Hugely, because I was bleeding to death on a table.
That's Downton Abbey.
It's total.
That's how the girl dies on Downton Abbey. The girl.
Oh yes.
Preeclampsia, it's called, or something. Yeah, they couldn't stop the bleeding. My sister-in-law had that at one point.
She did though. And the doctor, I'm very lucky, Dr. Anna Barbieri, love you, still talk to her to this day, 16 years later. And 16 years later, she will still tell you that I will be the delivery she remembers when she's on her porch rocking after her retirement.
Unfortunately. It's always good to be remembered.
It's never, well, the thing is that hospital then changed their protocol for people that had my blood clotting disorder. So it wasn't even that it would, like, shitty things happen to me. Am I allowed to say that? I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. I've been trying to watch it and be on my best behavior.
You don't have to watch it on this show.
So
I wasn't sure.
You're making it into textbooks is what you're saying.
I made it into the textbooks. And after that, I was in recovery for 4 days. Didn't get to meet my kids. Didn't even name my own children. Never thought that I was going to meet them. Was seen by a priest for, they didn't want to give me last rites. We didn't know what was happening. But the moral of the story is I am now making, shit jokes on Instagram on a regular basis. Sure. So do not worry until somebody tells you to worry. And they said, we got it under control. But things that I learned, like Jason learned the hard way, husbands play a huge, I shouldn't even say husbands, partners play a huge role. And it may be a husband, it could be a wife, it could be a mother, it could be a coworker. It could be whoever your person is. There is
honestly, you didn't really need to worry, because if something happened, you were going to be gone. You know who needed to worry was your husband, who was going to be left behind. He would have been left behind with twins. I mean, if anybody should be worrying, it's that cat.
Yeah. So what was it like for him? Like, what was it for him? Has he ever talked to you about it?
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. Like, neither of us went to therapy over it. We probably should have, but he lost his dad at a very young age. And to a boating accident. Like, his dad went out with his uncle and they went fishing off of Sheepshead Bay, and the boat sank and didn't have a radio, and his cousin was the only one that lived because there was only one life jacket. So my husband's been through some shit, and for him to have to go through that in the introduction to babies, when, by the way, he did not want children. He's a wonderfully selfish man, and really was very content to live his whole life without children and just dogs. He would have been great with it. And I somehow, listen, you know what?
I got talked into it.
Did you? Is that how that happened, Jamie?
I mean, I got my first kids. My kids were born at 50. I was like 50 years old. My kids were born. I was like, nah, I'm good. I used to do a joke. I got, having kids at my age is like getting a DUI just as you pull into the driveway. I was home, man. I had it. And so, but now I love it, and they're the best. I just was swimming with them earlier, like with the two of them. And we had a water balloon fight in the back. Like, hey, great. My kids are 5 and 7, so I'm still like.
It's still fun.
Yeah. And mine are Irish twins. So, I mean, I'm basically dealing with twins. It's just one twin's bigger than the other one by a little bit. But yeah.
Do you have any other kids besides the twins, Natalie?
No, to be very honest with you, after that, I remember sitting in the recovery room all by myself. And Anna, the doctor, came in and said, I have to tell you, the shop has to close. You can never do that again. And
we got the same talk.
About? So, but Jason, I
wanted Jason. I mean, Jesus.
But wait,
no, Melissa asked. Melissa did ask.
But let me tell you, Jamie, there's something weird biologically that I don't know what it is, and maybe that's why humanity exists, because we're effed in the head and we want people want a lot of kids. I wanted 6. And so this thought of having 2 was just a train wreck for me, despite the fact that I'm like, can't even believe I'm alive. And I'm like, what? I can't do that again. So, Jason, did your wife have postpartum eclampsia?
No.
What did she lose her vision? What was her sign of her stroke after delivery?
So the stroke happened. So we were home at night. She was breastfeeding both. And my parents had inexplicably, they never just show up here. Then they did that day, and they brought dinner, and my mom yells to me, Jason, something's going on here. And I came in, and just as I came in the room, she started to drop the one baby, and I jumped forward and I caught the baby in my arms. And my mom had already taken the other baby, and Melissa had started to contort. So like I handed the other baby off to my dad, and I'm like, get our oldest son out of the room. And she was contorting, and so I had raised to help or take care of my grandparents when they got old. So I knew when I saw the drooping, what we were dealing with. We called 911. They were there within minutes.
Thank God.
They got her to the hospital, and the hospital there refused to treat her. So they were like, we need to fly her to another hospital. We can't deal with this. So she had an air flight to another hospital 2 hours away. And my wife's parents picked me up, and we drove down there. And by the time we got back, she had regained the ability to speak. But she had no use of her right side at all.
Okay.
But she's gained about I'd say 90% back, but it was crazy time.
I want to ask you 1,000 questions, but I think that's just my nature, and totally turn this podcast
I'm an open book whenever you want.
Flip it. Yes.
Yeah, flip it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now is she on blood thinners now?
She will be on Coumadin the rest of her life.
And why did they think she had a stroke?
So it was 2 things. One, she has had a hole in her heart that they were not aware of and that never saw. And so the stress of the 2 natural births caused a clot, and it through that hole and went to the brain.
And so did that hole in her heart get repaired?
No, because the risk was outweighed the benefits.
Okay.
So they decided not to. They did put in a pacemaker / defibrillator. And they just up everything with medication. Her heart, when she had the stroke, was running at 19%. Today, she is running at 35. So she's still not normal, but she's a lot better than she was.
Is that her ejection fraction? Is that what the okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I apparently also became a doctor somehow along the way. I don't know. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
We've never talked about this part of it on the show at all.
Now, in one of the things that I did was I'm now a lactation consultant, but I only work with twin families.
We had to
Boom.
use one. We used a lactation consultant.
You gotta, man. There's some serious
I'd
shit
never heard
that
of
you
that.
learn.
I used to do a joke about it.
Dude,
Yeah.
I
let me
tried
tell
to
you something. I
breastfeed,
was
but the
literally
twins would
just
never take to
teaching
my
a
nipple.
class last night. Last night was teaching a class about how to breastfeed twinnies and things that you could do, and having realistic goals and how your partner's going to be involved, because as Jason knows, raising twins is not a singleton sport. It takes both parents plus a few extra if you got them, in-laws, outlaws, whatever you want to call
Law
them.
enforcement involved.
100%. They don't even come to when they see our
Well, let me
address.
ask you: is there anything in life harder than raising twins?
Yeah, there's a million things that are harder than raising twins. There really is.
Would one of those things be maybe raising triplets?
It would be because of the whole boobs. We got
only get two boobs. Since we're talking about breastfeeding, so you would breastfeed two, but with three, we need more nipples. I feel like
there's a lot more nipple action. You need a wet nurse, or you need a really good militant schedule. But yes, is it possible? Totes possible.
I never knew what wet nurse was until like the lactation specialist, because you hear wet nurse when you're a kid, and you just think it's a nurse who's dealing in these, but you're like, oh no, she's a wet nurse.
Dude, you know what I'm super into right now? I'm trying to help a family relactate. What? So, or inducing lactation. Like I have like a 2-mom family and they both want to breastfeed. I'm like, Holmes, let's do this. So apparently it's possible. And I read historically, there's a lot of cultures where grandma would reinduce lactation to help feed the littles. What?
So if you keep suckling, like cows, like milking cows, are because if you milk them, they'll make more milk. They'll make more milk forever. Are we the same? How do you, if you stop and it stops creating milk, how do you then, this is insane that I'm asking this question. How do you
No, it's not. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. So how our breasts are made is, I always describe it to my papas as it's a fishing net. Okay, so in your breast, it's a fishing net. There's a fishing net, and the little netting piece is really, really tight. So we can't catch fish, right? Because it's kind of like a plastic bag. What happens is when you deliver your placenta, the fishing net kind of says, I'm going to chill out a little bit. And so the fishing net loosens a little bit. And so then as you're like, hey, I'm going to let a little bit of milk out. And then as more comes out, the fishing net's like, hey, cool, I'm going to open up a little bit more and make this easier for you. And so there's these ducts that are in there, and eventually they get super wide open and you could breastfeed 2-year-olds, all cool. But once your body knows how to make that fishing net apparatus work, your fishing net could always be there if you need it.
I tried to breastfeed, but the kids would never take to my nipples.
Yeah,
dude, let me tell you, I would love if I had a dad and I would be like, please, could we just try? I mean, you got nipples. Honestly, I don't know what's happening.
Hey, listen, speaking of the hardest thing ever, I have a friend who has triplets, and I asked him to come into the show because you work with everyone who has multiple births, and I want to hear some of his nightmare stories and how you would fix it. Yes. So please welcome my pal. He is an amazing musician, but he is also the father of 3 triplets. Please welcome Shane Roberts to the show.
Yay! Round of applause. Round of applause. Round of applause.
Hello,
hello. Hope everyone can hear me all right.
Hey, Jane.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Congratulations on your trippies.
Listening to some amazing conversation.
She runs Twiniversity, and she, obviously I called you immediately and said, hey, we're having a twin expert on the show today. Do you want to come in and talk about the nightmare that is triplets?
Don't say it's a nightmare, Shane. For those of them that are expecting, they're going to run away screaming. Just pretend it's nice.
We should. What crazy person has 3 children at one time? It's insane.
Shane, did you choose to have 3 children? Were you like, please, we'd like to place an order, but it's got to be a minimum of 3, maximum of 8.
No, we wanted a child at that time, and it's funny because we went to the hospital, and I remember I tell people this story all the time. We went to the hospital for our ultrasound, and the doctor's response when he's scanning the babies was, there's 1, there's 2, and what concerns me is this 3rd one. And so, in that moment of time where you're learning that you're having triplets, first of all, wait, that has to be misinformation, but then you try not to pass out. And I was looking at my wife, and she's starting to tear up, and she immediately knows the risk and everything involved. So she starts worrying, and I'm like, okay, I gotta be strong, try not to vomit. And you can't really enjoy that moment of, hey, you have triplets, because then they immediately kind of like, okay, well, congratulations, we'll make your
Mhm.
appointment, blah, blah, blah. And then everyone's congratulating on your way out. And it feels like someone just died because I'm holding my wife. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, good. Great. And we're just in a somber moment. But my first words of when I told my mom were, Shane, you're effed. that was hard, disheartening.
I mean, what was it like leaving the hospital with 3? I mean, who carried the 3rd?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was funny because one of them had to remain there for, I think, a week. Was one. Just he had jaundice, but we only spent a week in NICU. My wife was a champion, carried him almost full term,
Wow.
34 weeks and 6 days. Exact. Yeah.
Wow.
She was like, "Get them the hell out of me."
She did it. That's fantastic.
C-section, obviously. Yeah. But on the breastfeeding subject, it's funny that you guys are talking about that because there was no breastfeeding in the raising the triplets at all. Just obviously, I can't even imagine really how you would do that and have time to do anything else because you'd just be constant in rotation.
Mhm.
But that's just me. But I was helping with the feedings. I guess it was a benefit to me because I was able to help. I hear a lot of fathers, they don't really do much because, like, what are you going to do? Hold a baby while they're attached to the breast or whatever. So it did allow me to kind of jump in there and be a father and contributor and a good husband. It made me feel good, that, hey, I'm able to take this shift of kids and, man, sleeping waking up every 2 hours and feeding them, having 2 rocking plays at the same time while one baby's with you. And I'm literally rocking them with my feet while watching baby first TV, 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Your body gets so used to not sleeping.
I think people they underestimate how little sleep you actually need. But one of the things that I always say in our classes is remember that sleep deprivation is a literal form of torture.
Yeah, it's torture. Yeah. Shane, are your kids are they identical?
So the boys look very similar. We haven't had them tested. I mean, I have 2 boys and a girl. My girl looks like me. My boy is going to look like my wife. So we tell them no. They were born fraternal. But the boys, like, there's some times where we have to be looking straight at them to know who's who. And they have the same manners.
We have that here too.
Yeah.
One of ours is a
birthmark.
birthmark.
Boys and a girl, because you kind of have your whole family there. You got your girl, you got the 2 boys. It's kind of a good pairing. It's like a Peter, Paul, and Mary, and they could be a real trio of singers, man. I think they could do something.
Yeah, we won the lottery. For sure. Does anybody else have the experience to where the two you guys have twins, right? So do they have the same mannerisms and the same reactions or responses without even cueing off each other? And do they have any twin talk?
Yeah, ours have a whole language of their own that they speak to each other that they seem to understand, but we have no idea what the hell they're saying.
I love that. Twin talk is the best. I really wish that there was a way. Every set of twins obviously has their own talk. And Shane, I don't know if you know this, but we have a podcast too, when we interviewed this chick who her twins have like a legit twin talk, plus she just had a new baby, and they only call the baby Chunk.
Wow.
That was the best thing that happened to me. This baby Chunk, but twin talk is legit. So for my twins, I don't obviously have the bonus baby like you do, but my twins had their own language, but my daughter spoke English, as I say. So she would translate to me what he was saying. And
that's
she would look at me like I was like a crackhead. Like, how do you not know? Like, he wants an apple, you moron. Like, I was waiting for her to say that, and he would like, and I'd be like, I got nothing.
Sound like when they talk to each other, they sound like minions. They're like, it's like, it literally is like that. It's crazy.
My boys did that. We were actually so concerned we were going to place them in speech therapy, and then when we were going to make the decision, I think they were around 2.5. They just started speaking real words. It's like they knew, we better get out of it. But it was only my boys. My daughter was never included in any of that stuff. She was obviously way more progressed than the boys. When it came to speech, she was counting in Spanish when she was like 2, where my boys weren't even really wanting to stand up. Boys are a little bit lazier. But twin talk has always interested me. I don't know if you guys know this or aware of this, but the lady who was hired to do the soundtrack for Gladiator, she had a whole developed language when she was a child, and she knows it to this day. And it's a real language that she sang in. It was Hans Zimmer, that actually hired her.
The composer.
Yeah, and that's
Really?
it's a whole language that she was singing in, and he was suspicious of it, where he actually at some point was like, repeat that line, and he repeated it word for word, and it's just like that's another language. Yeah,
that's
amazing.
crazy. I never knew that it went that deep. That's nuts.
It goes for a while, and so we have one of the members of our team has identical girls. And there's words that they'll use that aren't English words, and that's their word. And I think it's amazing. I honestly think I would love to have somebody that I had my own language with. That would be
connection,
pretty damn cool.
That connection for sure is super deep, and I see even now in my boys, even though they don't really have the language anymore, they share a connection that's way closer than they have with their sister. I mean, they have no problem putting their face up to each other's face and just get real close, and just they hug each other. And Filipinos call it gigil, where they squeeze really tight, and that's how they display their affection to each other. It's really, really crazy.
I have a question for the boys with the multiple birth children. Do you find that your children have zero personal space? Do they know what personal space is?
No,
ours do. Ours are pretty good about it.
I think that has a lot to do with the parents too, though, because I really don't care. I want my kids to love me and be on me all the time. However, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because once you get them into that habit, then there's don't care. There's no personal space, and that's with strangers now too. Is they'll just be all up on people in public. Like, get away from that, please.
Yeah, they don't get it. My kids, when they were little, they never quite understood that not everybody wants to hold hands.
Right.
Like in an elevator. Maybe that guy doesn't want to hold your hand. Like maybe we can not.
Well, I'll give you a good example.
Your kids are going. My kids are. I mean, there's no personal space with me and the family, but they're not walking up to like vans asking for candy.
No, I don't know. I always wondered if it was like a twin thing. I wondered if it was a twin thing because they don't have personal space with each other. And so to them, they always, and it happens to siblings too, though, to be very honest, there's a lot of families that if they're a close, nice, snuggly family, they just assume that everybody's nice and snuggly. Yeah. And so, it's a learning. It's a thing that you then have to teach them. So one of the things that I find fascinating, and I'm curious if you guys find it too, one thing that we never had to teach our kids was empathy. Where like they always felt for other people. Like I feel like my kids feel for others deeper than the average bear. And I don't know if that has to do with me and that I had this very like pack mentality with them, especially because I was with them 24/7. And we weren't like a family, we were a team. And so I think my kids know that family is like somebody that, you're born into it, but a team is somebody you could choose to have as part of your team. So my kids would always, like if a kid fell at the playground, the two of them would be the first one there. Is that just my weirdo children?
Go ahead, Shane.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so with my children, and maybe Shane, this happened with you, that like when our egg split, so did the soul. So they each only got just a half. And so I and the one child, maybe even only like 12% of a soul. So like there's no empathy. There's no human kindness. I'm in mortal danger every day here.
Yeah, for me, my kids are they're really compassionate and really nice. They, for some reason, empathy when it came to like, oh, are you okay? The simple gesture of, oh, are you okay? Are you all right? We're still teaching them that. It's not.
How old are yours now, Shane?
They're 7.
Okay.
So, and it's still not something that comes naturally to where somebody falls down, they go, oh, are you all right? It's more of like, ooh, that kind of thing. Sure. If it's really serious or they express genuine concern, like, hey, they'll come get me or come get one of them. Yeah. Hey, I think something's happening to that person. But I don't know. It's just, empathy has never been something. Now, it's funny, though, because one of my boys he's super sweet, super nice, but we've always had issues with him Both of them have been diagnosed with ADD, but we've always had issues with him expressing his anger, and where he turns it, he can't. It's like a faucet, and the knob's broke. You know, it's either hot or cold all the time. So, but when someone gets him hot, he doesn't know how to get himself down. Or he actually was expelled from daycare, where he can never attend the program again because of. I'll give you the last example that got him expelled was he told a girl to get back in a line, and the girl didn't want to get back in line, and so she kept telling him, "No, I don't have to." So he grabbed her by the hair and pulled her into the line. Like, no, you're gonna get back in line. So
I mean, to be fair, she was supposed to be in line, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm on Jamie's side.
In the line.
I mean,
I'm on his side, Shane.
Too, man. She gets the boot as well.
I didn't get this call at work, and I'm just going, all right.
We've all gotten that call. Like, life's not hard enough. Where you're like, really, dude? All right, whatever.
I mean, I can't. I'm mad at him, but I can't be that mad at him because she was supposed to be in line. But it's also, I'm kind of upset at the daycare because, like, look, guys, they're 7. They're gonna express anger. They don't have it figured out yet. Yeah. And I think that's
43 don't have it figured out. So how are they supposed to know it's 7?
That was a teaching moment that they totally just dodged.
Mm-hmm. And it was multiple issues where it was, but it was like, he kicked a student because they said that he's a loser in dodgeball. Okay, he's dealing with his anger, so that's fine. Yeah. But I think that's something that we need to give more leeway to kids is like, hey, not everyone has it figured out at a certain age. Just like you were saying, you're 40. Like, hey, I'm still figuring it out. I'm 40. Yeah. There's moments where I lose my temper. Yeah.
Shane, did that just happen? Was that like the girl?
Just recently. So, okay. This might be another. I'd be interested to hear from you guys. My boys are the only ones to do it. They stim, so which is called stimulation. So they have my boy Leo is the worst at it, where he grabs a straw, he has to wiggle it back and forth as he's imagining something, and he imagines a scenario, or he's watching a movie or a video or reading a book even, and he goes, "No!" And he's playing out these scenarios in his head as he's verbalizing it and everything. Well, he does that. He's so comfortable with doing it at home. He's doing that at school. So now we're trying to get him to wean off of that.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Are they in therapy? Do they go to OT?
Yeah, they had some therapy. They had some sessions. Michael went to therapy for his anger management at 7 years old.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that's a thing. That's a thing?
It's a thing.
Like with on our son, like it's like he's constantly in his head. He just has Michael Jackson's "It's Black or White" playing all the time. Like it's din 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 and it never stops. Always.
Stimulation, yeah. ADD becomes more of a common diagnosis, I think, with a lot of kids because of the behind the curve developmentally, and they have these. Honestly, I mean, we're all creative people here. It's very easy to say like. Look, I had ADD when I was growing up. I'm a musician, a photographer, a music producer. I work a 40-hour-a-week job. I have to stimulate somehow. That's just how our brain works. We have to stimulate ourselves by creating. And that's how I really explain it to people is like they need to create. My kids want to draw. They want to create something. But when they can't, their head goes, I gotta imagine.
But Shane,
something.
can I tell you something? You know what's funny for our brains, right? I always describe my brain as a house that has 52,000 rooms, and some of them hoarders live in. That's how I would describe my brain. I think that's a mark of a good human, is what I would like. But my dude had the same thing, and I remember that I always thought like I was trying to teach him the filling his sensory cup in the ways that I do mine. Like I shake my leg a lot, and like there's things that I do even as an adult. And I realized that he taught me, right? Because now my kids are 16. So, and my son had a lot of the same issues that you're talking about. You're speaking my language. So now I'm your future. And how my son fills his sensory cup is the freaking stock ticker.
Wow.
He loves watching that shit. And this dude, he's got investments up the wazoo. He'll make $10. He'll invest $7. He is going to support all of us as he gets. But that's how awesome. He fills his cup, which I never thought about. I was like, play an instrument, play a sport, but he doesn't physically he doesn't get stimulation from physically filling his cup. He gets it from mentally filling his cup.
It's watching. It's all mental. That's how my daughter is. She has to mentally do something. Where my boys are all physical, they have to create, they have to draw, they have to do something, play the drums or whatever.
Shane, your kids are going to rule that school, man. Can you imagine the class? Every class they're in is the three of them.
Not
what's
always.
Crazy?
They separate them.
At that age, it is.
It depends on the state.
Here
Well,
they
when
separate
they
them.
would split them up.
they
states
split them up here.
It is mandatory to split them up.
Yeah,
Correct.
It's not a good idea.
Yes, correct.
It's not a good idea to have them together.
They split them.
We actually made sure this next year in second grade.
My daughter has twins in her class.
That could be chosen. It depends on your school.
That must be your
private school. So
that doesn't count.
It's a little Catholic school.
Yes. Well, so Jamie, so what happens
I
sometimes?
didn't know you had to break them up.
Is when you have them together, they stick together, and which means they kind of segregate themselves away from the
packs of raptors, Jamie.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I know. Clever ladies.
One triplet parent, I actually read, as I belong to a couple groups on Facebook, and one triplet parent actually moved to Spain for a job, and his triplets were in the same class. They weren't learning or wanting to either interact with any of the classes because they had a comfort space that were themselves, and they didn't have to interact. They had themselves. My boys are 100% worse behavior when they are together in the same class.
Yeah.
My daughters are, when we separate them, they're amazing, beautiful little kids who are so kind and sweet. And then they get together and all of a sudden the floor is lava and I get kicked in the balls. I don't know.
Well, we've kept you guys long enough. Is there anything either of you think that the parents out there of multiples or those who are of singletons, what would be your advice to other parents out there?
I'm going to go with every Nat needs a Shane. And so this is why, and it works both ways. So our steady play dates were always triplet families. And so there would be 5 kids, 2 adults. We looked like we were in a nursery school. But if you really need to put your what's great for me was that whenever I was like, oh my God, misery loves company. Like I always felt like she had it kind of a little bit more, I don't want to say worse. It was just different because there was a whole other kid. But on the flip side, it was equally, I'm still friends with them. So if they stayed friends with me for 17 years, I'm doing something right. But on the flip side of having the ease of having twins and not having to explain, you can't come over because the house is a mess. And, the kids are going to be a little feral. There's no discussion that has to be done when you're with multiple birth parents because I'm not saying that everybody's a hot mess, and for everybody that's out there that your kids wear matching outfits, I'm very happy for you. However, the majority probably don't, and we're just trying to get through to 9 p.m. So having another family with multiples, there's no excuses that need to be made, whether it's triplets, quints, quads, that's not even a joke, and they're out there. You need to be around other parents of multiples to feel normal. What do you think, Shane?
What about you?
I agree. Honestly, the biggest piece of advice I give every new parent, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter, is just parent the way you feel you need to parent. Every child is different. Every child is going to grow up different. They're not everybody else's kids. And the biggest piece of advice I would offer people would be, hey, just raise them as good human beings. That's all you need to try to do. And that's it.
But I mean, let's face facts. It's like we see that. I mean, I'm totally agreement. We're all doing the best we can. But I've seen the best parents have a child that turns into a sociopath, right? Yeah. And then the one parent, the guy who deserted his kid at the age of 1, that kid went on to become, you know, president or something. And so you can't judge yourself that harshly about anything, because a lot of it's out of your hands. You can do the best you can. Like my kid's the same. We're talking about ADD. She's not like diagnosed, but it's all a diet thing. I'm like, well, of course you can't sleep at 10 o'clock at night. You've been eating shit all day long. And I tried my best, but after asking me for 50 snacks, and I've cut up carrot sticks and celery sticks and rice cakes, and finally all right, here's some graham crackers. All right. Here's 9 M&Ms. Here's some Pirates booty. And finally, she's like, snack, Daddy, snack. And you're like, just get it yourself. And then she eats the whole box of Rice Krispie treats. There's only so much you can do in the day. I'm an old man snack butler. That's all I do all day long. Just
Snack butler. Oh my God. Well, can I also just say one more thing that we were talking about, like what you could do, and something that you just said, Jamie, too, and that you never know, like, like how these people have parents that become who they are. My theory, and it's not a Twiniversity theory, it's a Natalie Diaz theory, but it kind of leaks into everything, is just be good to everyone, not just your children. Because my husband had, after his father passed, had people that became his mentor, and the person that didn't have a father, or the girl who didn't have a mother, that they're always looking, you might be looking for guidance in some way. So instead of just worrying about your two, and it probably goes to the fact that I live in a village, but I look out for everybody, and my kids look out for everybody. There is no Diaz gang, Twiniversity gang. You want to be part of our team? I want you to be part of our team. And so you never know the life that you're going to touch. I didn't know Jason read my book. And I don't know how many, over 50,000 copies of that book were sold. And by the way, it's been updated. You'd probably really, really like it now because it's even snarkier and more tongue-in-cheek than the last time since we updated it.
One, yeah.
We'll put a link to it. You can do a last second chapter and do triplets with Shane. And
there you go.
I always said that I called myself Twiniversity because I don't feel that I have the authority to speak about triplets. So
Shane, you write the book.
Shane, you want to write the book? I'll hook you up with my publisher. Dude, I got it. I got all the connections.
I don't know if I have enough time to squeeze that in.
We'll make it happen. You just speak it into your iPhone. I'll transcribe it.
Perfect. There you go.
Now, I love your theory too, and it's my theory on life is you see, especially since the pandemic, all these people are losing their crap on the planes, like punching flight attendants. I mean, people are just losing it, and all I ever say is, look, don't be a dick. Like, that's it. That's the theory of life.
That's it. That really is it.
That's the golden rule.
That's it. It should be a T-shirt. Everyone's like, don't be a dick.
Forget about love thy neighbor. It should just be don't be. It's true. Don't be a dick. Stand on
the plane. You refuse to. Just put a fucking mask. They're asking you to do it. Yeah. Just do what they ask you to do, man. That's it. Don't be a jerk. Try to fit in with everybody else. I know. It's like we teach empathy. I think if you can raise children who have a sense of empathy towards others, I think you're a fantastic parent.
I agree.
And at least we're not the parents of the person that gave me our first triplet stroller. They had 4 girls, tried for a boy, had 3 more girls.
Oh no!
So at least we're not them.
At least we're not them. That's your takeaway, Shane. At least we're not them.
I think we should end on that note.
Yeah, that's it.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on here. Yeah. Where can people find you guys?
I'm just at Twiniversity on every single universe social platform. I'm easy to find. Or you could Google Natalie Twins. It's really that simple.
And I'm all over the place, really. I've known Jamie for a long time now. But I just came out with. I know, me too. We came out. So I've come out with my new podcast called House of Shane, and that's on Anchor and then Spotify and other platforms. I'm trying to release that as much as possible, but
we'll pop links into our stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah, dude, we'll get the links and we'll share it to all the Parents Lounge and the Dadlands and Dadpocalypse. Same with Nats. Honestly, it is true. We wanted to do this because we know so many people who have twins or triplets, and multiples, as you say, it's great that you have the book. I mean, Jason talks about your book a lot and said,
I really do.
It's a unique thing, and it's like there's it takes a village in every way, whether it's a specific thing like twins or triplets, but just parenting in general. That's how this whole thing started, is with other people. Like, I didn't know what I was getting into, and I was like, and so I tried to learn from others, and I think that's the way to do it.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for coming back. I'll always come back again, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Oh, you'll be back, Shane. We're catching up on those triplets as well.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to our guests, Natalie Diaz and Shane Roberts, for joining us today. Dude, that was
a fun show, right?
It got a little heavy for a minute or two. We're not normally that heavy,
Yeah, but it was a lot of information that I don't think just gets out there very often. And some of the parts of the stroke we have never talked about on the air, so it was kind of
was good. So, all right. Well, listen, let's say thanks to everybody, and we'll see everybody next week on the Parents Lounge every Tuesday, 7 p.m. But you can find old episodes and let us know what you think.
All righty. And as always, we're also at www.facebook.com/theparentslounge and www.youtube.com/Jamie Kaler.